For those of you who are new here, this is my best of the year list. I first of all run down my top 20 of the year, and then in part 2, we're going to go through everything else I've seen this year, the rest of the movies. And then in part 3, we're going to go over just other stuff I've seen, TV shows, video games. Oh, what, you've had it with me? Who am I talking to, Hendrix? Who am I talking to? Huh? Come here. Piece of shit. And if you haven't noticed, I finally shaved my facial hair. No longer filming that series I'm working on. I'm gonna keep the hair growing out for a little longer, maybe. I don't know. My Nana Letizia said she liked it. She's like, Elafita, I like your hair long. It looks so beautiful. She doesn't know the word for handsome because she always speaks Italian. She's like, Elafita, you're so pretty. Okay, we're doing the top 10 now. I have to get into professional film critic mode. Oh, have you seen The Finishing Wave? Gianluca Dard. I'm a film professor. My pee-pee is bigger than your pee-pee. I'm gonna imitate all the people who gave Black Panther a good review. Ready? I don't hate Black Panther. It's just so funny how everyone acts like it's the greatest movie ever made. So here's the top 20. Number 20 on my list is You Were Never Really Here, directed by Lynn Ramsey and starring Joaquin Phoenix. This is the third. There are 3 movies with Joaquin Phoenix in it on this list, by the way. Joaquin Phoenix is fantastic in it. It's definitely a deconstruction of movies like Draw and Convincing. Johnny Greenwood's score is very unique, and it goes all over the place. It's like strings in one part, and then it suddenly turns into synth, and then it becomes like really experimental, almost like David Lynch, kind of intense through a lot of it. There's a great scene where Joaquin Phoenix breaks into a building, I won't say, and well done. Number 19 is Bad Times at the El Royale, directed by Drew Goddard. I was about to say Drew Goddard, you can't not compare this movie to The Hateful Eight or movies of that ilk. Definitely heavily inspired by Tarantino. Except this film takes place around the time of the Vietnam War, so you're dealing with the themes of racism, themes of sexism, themes of Manson-like cults, and the Vietnam War, obviously. That's a big part of it. And it was this nice homage to 70s and 70s films and 70s music. It had a great soundtrack. All of the performances were wonderful. The standout being, of course, Jeff Bridges and... what's her name? Cynthia Erivo? Erivo. Number 18, another Joaquin Phoenix movie. Don't worry, he won't get far on foot. This is a movie about an alcoholic dude who gets in a car accident and then he becomes paralyzed, and he has to learn to deal with it. He has to become sober, and he goes from being a bum to being like a decent artist and whatever. I'm not going to say it's necessarily unpredictable, but it's very well done. You've got Rooney Mara, Jonah Hill is amazing in it. Joaquin Phoenix, of course, is great as always. And this is directed by Gus Van Sant, and he's able to get really natural, good performances out of people. And the way they depicted alcoholism really made it seem like just a horrible thing. Number 17 is The House That Jack Built, the best comedy of the year. It's about a serial killer played by Matt Dillon who just murders people. It's directed by Lars von Trier, and it's actually an interesting deconstruction of his work and almost a parody of his work. How we take joy in seeing other people get hurt and dying in film. There's tons of scenes where people get hurt or mutilated or killed, and it's just awful to watch. But then you have this like electric personality, Jack, played by Matt Dillon, and he's fucking hilarious. Speaking of funny, number 16 is The Death of Stalin. This movie takes place in Russia, but none of the characters speak Russian. Steve Buscemi is in it. He doesn't even try to do a Russian accent. Nobody does. It's obviously not trying to be realistic. I would have liked it better if the movie was better shot and had like a look to it, because it kind of looked like a TV show, and some of the editing choices, especially like the slow motion, really made it feel cheap. But the script is just amazing and clever. It made fun of Stalin-era communism very well, and how all these people were just pitted against each other because the system is so corrupt and fucked up that all these people are like, okay, I have lists of people I need to kill who are political enemies. I have this guy I gotta get alliance with. And the most shocking thing to me was that it was all true. I looked it up after. And how they were able to take this true story and make it into something just this hilarious is, it's commendable. Number 15 is Under the Silver Lake. I love anti-Hollywood movies, and this is totally that. You know, all these like weird Illuminati type symbols and hidden messages in work. This is something that people always have had interest in and speculate about, and this is a movie that really explores that topic very well, and how this Hollywood dream of going there and becoming like a famous writer or famous actress is basically all just a lie, because they're all prostitutes. They're all like being used and abused as sex objects. They're all losers. They're always on drugs. And this is directed by David Robert Mitchell. He directed It Follows, and this is it's definitely an interesting follow-up. Nothing like It Follows, it was refreshing. I love the way this movie's shot. It has a lot of energy. The pacing is really good. It reminded me a lot of Inherent Vice, which is a movie I don't like because I feel that movie is very uncreative in its presentation and annoying. Whereas here, even though there were moments that it definitely annoyed me and points where I was like, oh, so you just threw in that info because the plot wouldn't make sense if, like, you couldn't get this character from here to here unless you said, oh, just follow a coyote. Like, there's shit like that that's so stupid. But this movie has a lot of style. It's very funny. Andrew Garfield is very good in it. This confused, drug-fueled, paranoid guy just trying to figure out what the fuck is going on around him was very entertaining to watch. Number 14 is Lean on Pete, which is the name of the horse in the movie. And this is actually a much darker film than I expected. The movie looks excellent. The dialogue writing and the acting, everyone, from Charlie Plummer to Chloe Sevigny. Steve Buscemi's great in it. There's a lot of really great characters you meet along the way. I think horses are cool, so I got a kick out of seeing this kid and a horse, you know, forming a bond. Black Mirror Bandersnatch. I love the reviews for this that said, all of the endings are kind of the same, and all of your choices don't really matter all that much. First of all, that's not really all that true, but I think those people missed the point of the movie. It's mainly told in that way to hammer home this point of, you don't really have choice in life. Fate is what it is. Things are destined to happen no matter how much influence you have over them. And it's an illusion of choice. And this film really explores those themes very well, while at the same time being a very fun choose-your-own-adventure kind of thing, because there are choices in here which are just there to entertain you. What dragged it down for me a bit is that it felt kind of like a TV show. I'm aware Black Mirror is a TV show, and this is kind of a TV movie. Everything felt very small scale. Some of the performances were a little not bad necessarily, but they felt like actors, whereas the main kid, I forgot his name, he's the kid in Dunkirk. He really honed it in, and he was really good. Same with Will Poulter, who was great. I gotta look up the Dunkirk kid's name. Fionn Whitehead. Number 12, Annihilation. I definitely have my complaints with it. First hour was kind of dull. Natalie Portman was dull as hell. Great science fiction movie though. Once they get into the shimmer, the movie really picks up. The last 20 minutes of this movie are just excellent. The soundtrack is great. And what I was not expecting is that it's actually a science fiction horror film. And there's some stuff in this film, aside from, CGI animals attacking and whatever, just the core of what this movie is about and what it's exploring is really kind of disturbing and sick. But I feel it's a great science fiction film in that way, where you can really take anything you want out of it because of how vague and distant it is. It's quite remarkable. In a way, Ex Machina was remarkable too, which is also directed by Alex Garland. I don't think his movies are perfect, but he's definitely an interesting science fiction writer, and he's actually trying things. The Ballad of Buster Scruggs is number 11. Yeah, number 11. It was a genuinely funny and well-acted version of A Million Ways to Die in the West. You know that movie where Neil Patrick Harris shits in a hat and Seth MacFarlane has no charisma? This is a film that is exploring the themes of death and violence in the West and how just awful and brutal it was, but in a way that's very comedic and sarcastic and self-aware. And it also imitates the style and the aesthetic of classic Hollywood films and classic Hollywood comedies. And it's really funny and clever. I wouldn't consider it a 5-star movie because I think some of the skits are weaker than others, for sure, upon seeing it multiple times. Number 10 is Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse. I was not expecting this to make my top 10, and I wasn't expecting it to be the best piece of media Spider-Man has ever been associated with. Beyond being just funny and creative, it was a film that genuinely understood the character of Spider-Man, what made him tick, why people connect with him so much, his struggle, his constant getting beaten down, but he always gets himself back up and pushes forward. That's what people like about him. He's not a boring guy who has an emo haircut and is in a skateboard. Number 9 is Hereditary. The horror has really made a comeback, especially this year. And Hereditary it feels like you're watching a classic while you're watching it. It doesn't rely on cheap jump scares to get a scare out of the audience. It was terrifying and disturbing, and it wasn't afraid to shy away from things that are just horrible to think about and see on screen. And it was really effective. I saw this twice in the theater, and both times people were walking out, which just shows you how fucked some people think this is. And this is a film where you get a lot more out of it upon repeated viewings. Toni Collette is amazing in it. Overall, just a fantastic horror movie. Happy as Lazzaro is a film from Italy, and it's number 8 on my list. Directed by Alice something. Directed by, I guess you say it Alice, because it's Italian. Hold on, let me get the cigar in my mouth. Alice Vorosco. This is an excellent movie about the poor class in Italy, the dynamic between them and the upper class. It has a very fairy tale-like logic, but it also has a lot of unexpected twists, and it's very dark and isn't afraid to get sad and realistic when it needs to tug at those heartstrings a little. All of the characters are extremely entertaining and interesting, and you get to see them progress over years and how they change from youth to adulthood. And I just think a bunch of Italian people in a room talking is just so funny, because I have an Italian family, so I got that out of it too. Number 7 is The Sisters Brothers. Joaquin Phoenix again, Jake Gyllenhaal, John C. Reilly, who is not in a stupid fucking Will Ferrell movie. He's actually in a real movie because he's a talented actor, and for some reason he's in shitty comedies. Riz Ahmed's in it, my boy, and he's great. Definitely better than he was in Venom. All these characters are really well written. It's just a really well-made, dark Western. I love just exploring these characters. They're all great. Number 6 is Blindspotting. And this is an excellent film, 1 about racism, 2 about police brutality, and 3 about, and I think the most prominent theme in it, besides all that, is identity, and how much just where you grew up and what you're a part of and your culture and your race play into what people automatically assume of you the second they see you. And if you can ever really escape that. It looks great. The rap in it, because the 2 characters have like these little rap monologues, they were so excellent.
How come every time you come around, you monsters got me feeling like a monster in my own town?
And it's also really funny, and the dynamic between the 2 leads is great. Number 5 is Roma, from director Alfonso Cuarón. Alfonso Cuarón, after the stupidity that was Gravity, went back to the basics almost. He went back to the drawing board. He's back to like Y tu mama tambien days, And this movie was fantastic. Beyond just being a great director and a great director of actors, he's also his own director of photography. And this movie looks gorgeous. Not only is it gorgeous, but it's so ambitious. There's so many long takes with tons of extras, tons of things on fire or animals. Very epic in scale. Well, that's the way he tells his stories too, is mainly communicating internal struggle through the environments the characters are inhabiting. And that way of telling a story, especially when it's something as simple as this, is very, very effective. I loved all the acting in it. The kids were good, thank God. I thought the lead was excellent as well. Number 4 is Burning. It was a great thriller about a twisted character who has some redeeming qualities to him for sure, but he's also unpredictable, and you don't exactly know what he's thinking. And the film uses empathy from the audience to craft a character you almost root for. But then they subvert that in a way that's very clever. Stephen Yeun is in this from The Walking Dead. He was amazing. This is a film that definitely benefits from multiple watches. If you've seen Lover, this is like a way better version of Lover. Number 3 is First Reformed from the director of Dog Eat Dog. It's an amazing piece about the institution of religion and the corruptness in it. It's about radical ideologies poisoning somebody. And it's just a captivating character study of a man slowly losing his mind. And not in a showy, flashy, oh, he's hallucinating, oh, is this, whatever, fucking crazy shit happening. It's very mannered, very simple. The camera doesn't move a lot. When it does, it's very slow and purposeful. There's very little music. It's all just atmosphere and building that tension. And it's slow, and it's sad, and it's beautifully made. I loved every second of this movie. This is the best performance of Ethan Hawke's life. A really great character written for him. Number 2 is Suspiria, directed by Luca Guadagnino, something like some Italian guy, Maron. This is an incredible horror movie, a social statement. It has so many layers and subtext to it. The makeup, the set design, the dance choreography, it's all perfect. Dakota Johnson out of the 50 Shades of Grey movies, here she's actually commanding and she has presence. And her dancing is really great. It's hypnotizing almost, which is what it had to be to work, and it totally was. All of the actors in this just have command and presence. Tilda Swinton plays 3 characters in the movie. Oh, I didn't even know she played the old man until like 2 weeks ago. And that fucking blew my mind. Like, I saw that old man actor in it. I'm like, he looks kind of weird and his voice is kind of weird, but I mean, maybe it's just the guy. That's just the way he looks and sounds. But it was Tilda Swinton. That's awesome. And it just says something a lot about the movie, that the film really has no male characters in it. It's all women, including the man. There's the male police, but they're barely a part of it. I love the cinematography. The original Suspiria, if you don't know, is from 1977. Dario Argento made it, and it's very colorful, because all of his movies are. But here, my boy Luca did the exact opposite and drained all of the color out. But the 70s horror movie aesthetic is still there, and it's prevalent. The zooms, the split diopter shots, and other cool little references and homages to giallos. I just got so much out of it, and I really can't wait to see it again, because it was like a nightmarish, captivating, anxiety-riddled experience. And then you got Thom Yorke's score. Thom Yorke is a guy out of Radiohead, and it's just, not only is it amazing, but it's got so much variety. He goes from everything to like 70s creepy piano music, and then you got like the synth, and then you got just like normal Radiohead, where like him hanging out with his friends, and he's just like, I woke up. Best soundtrack of the year by far, but the best movie of the year, that's the question everyone's asking. What is the best film of the year? Well, the best film of the year is... It's Black Panther! Okay, Disney gave me the check to put that in. That's not even me. They sent me that clip of that guy. He's a white nerd, but he's a big Black Panther fan.
The action sequences are intense. I was on the edge of my seat. I was clenching my pecs, let me tell you.
They're all hanging out in my basement, actually. There's like a weird cult thing going on down there. It's Mickey Mouse and some old guy, and then there's like a bunch of white nerdy kids in Black Panther suits, and they're all like, I don't even think they understand like the racial implications of Black Panther. I think they're just fans of comic books.
One sacrifice!
I'll be the sacrifice. Kill me.
They were all chanting like, "We love Mickey Mouse. Sacrifice us to the mouse."
I see it now. It's beautiful.
I don't get involved in that. Anyway, my favorite movie of the year is The Favorite, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. This boy has been on all my lists. He made The Lobster, which was amazing. He made Killing of a Sacred Deer, which is a really good, tense family drama. And for me, this cements him as one of the best directors working today. And I can see by the end of his career, he could go down as one of the greatest filmmakers ever. Everything about his presentation and his sense of humor is so unique and totally in sync with what I'm looking for in a film. The locations felt very authentic and lived in. The film is very funny. The character relationships were very interesting. And the use of classical music, as common in his films, fits this particularly well because of the time period it's set in. Olivia Colman might have given the best performance of the year. She's hilarious and so far out there, but at the same time, she never becomes this ridiculous caricature. She has a real tragic past and clearly can't handle the massive responsibility inherited to her. She's so mentally unstable that she's barely able to take care of herself, much less the entire country. There's obviously a lot of comparisons to be made with Barry Lyndon, which is one of my favorite movies. Its mockery of the ruling class is prevalent, the use of natural light, and that's really why I liked it so much. While it was paying homage to movies like that, it was totally its own thing. Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz are great. My alliance constantly switched between Emma Stone, who at first you think is a good girl who's gonna rise from the bottom, and take Rachel Weisz's spot, who's like a conniving, corrupt politician. But then you actually start to like Rachel Weisz, because you learn she actually does care about the Queen, and is basically what keeps her at baseline. This is a fantastic movie in every way. I highly recommend it, and I cannot wait to see it again. Unfriended Dark Web, that's absolutely the worst movie I've seen this year. The balls they have to release this in a theater and charge $15 to see this.
Dude, this is Dark Web.
And there are also multiple endings apparently, as if someone would watch this piece of shit more than once. I didn't even want to see the first ending. The dialogue is terrible, all of the acting is terrible. Everyone involved with this movie did not give a remote shit. I swear to God, they wrote the script in 2 hours. Everyone knew this was gonna suck while making it, so they threw together this awful movie in a month, and then they released it because they knew it was gonna make money, because it literally cost nothing to make. It's not even a cinematic experience. This is a movie made to be watched on a laptop, and the fact that they released it in the theater, and I'm sitting down in this huge theater with these amazing speakers watching fucking people talk on Skype.
Dude, this is Darknet.
It's probably
Darknet? That's insulting. Like our next movie on the list, Cloverfield Paradox, another terrible movie. But at least J.J. Abrams knew it was terrible, and he's like, okay, so let's just release it on Netflix for free. The end Cloverfield monster was just hilarious. It takes all these concepts and literally just plot points from other science fiction movies like Alien and Solaris, and it does nothing new with them. Insidious, God, which Insidious movie is this? It's like the 5th one. It doesn't even say, The Last Key. I was not scared at all. I was bored out of my mind. This movie has no tone or atmosphere, so we're just gonna just jump scares every 5 seconds. 50 Shades Freed. I talked about this already in my 50 Shades of Grey video. Ant-Man and the Wasp. Seriously, Disney, how much did you pay these critics to say this was a good movie? If Disney came to me and they were like, okay, Ralph, you have to give Ant-Man and the Wasp a good review, and we'll pay you, I would want a new car to say this movie is good. It's the worst Marvel movie. The movie has absolutely no style at all. The jokes are terrible. All of the acting is horrendous. Paul Rudd is Paul Rudd in the Ant-Man suit. The girl who played Hope was just like, oh, it's a generic, I'm a badass chick who kicks and punches people and I have no character. Michael Douglas, who's one of the best actors ever, is just regurgitating techno jargon. I gotta go to the quantum field and the quantum this and I gotta do the quantum that. He has no idea what he's saying. And then Michelle Pfeiffer doesn't even know what fucking movie she's in.
Because you haven't seen it. I haven't seen the film.
The movie looks flat as hell. The action is boring. It's not funny. Michael Pena is only there to say bad jokes and, oh, I eat ass. And
Everyone's eating everyone's ass now. What about hygiene?
I don't even blame Michael Pena. They give him nothing to do. The icing on the shit cake is that 5 years ago, I think it's 5 years ago, Ant-Man was going to be directed by Edgar Wright, and it would have been one of the best movies of the year if he made it. But no, they got rid of him because he's creative and talented, and they brought in some hack. And now all of the creative input that Edgar Wright had, what little input he had, is completely removed now. And all we have is a generic, boring superhero movie with nothing to say, no reason to exist. Skyscraper starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. This movie looked like a joke. It was a boring ripoff of Die Hard that made no sense. The building was like this technologically advanced building with, it had like a room at the top that was like, it had all these screens that were mirrors and you could also see outside. It's like, why? And then this whole building is taken over because you need Dwayne Johnson's face scan in order to access all of it. And so the villains just scan his face and they're able to take over the whole building. You'd think there'd be a little bit more of a security procedure. It's clearly a movie that was like pandering to China. But I mean, what were you expecting from this? It's Skyscraper, come on. Mute, I give it some respect because I think everyone in this movie was trying. Duncan Jones made this, and God, he made this movie Moon, which is pretty good. He made Source Code, which I like a lot. And now this movie was just, it was embarrassing how much of a failure it was. Why was the main character mute? Why was that guy a pedophile? What purpose did that serve? Why does everything look like a cheaper, shittier ripoff of Blade Runner? This movie was so up its own ass. It was hilarious. The music was really bad. I didn't know what it was going for or what it was trying to do or what the point of it was. It was like this incoherent, boring, messy ripoff of Blade Runner. That's all it was. Zombies? This is a Disney Channel movie. I saw it, like, my friends wanted to watch it, so I watched it. You know what? For kids, it's not even good, because I hate this whole, like, we're gonna do a racism allegory. Like, what's that movie? Bright? Or like, oh, it's gonna be a racism allegory, but we're gonna make all the black people orcs. And in this movie, we're gonna make all the black people zombies. I guess it's more of a metaphor of, you're outside of the crowd, the zombies are outside of the crowd, and they try to fit in. But I guess the moral of the story is that the zombies should be accepted by the school. I don't know why the fuck I'm talking about this, and none of you are gonna watch it. Hurricane Heist, I mean, what'd you think this was gonna be? It was 1517 to Paris, for the newest film from legendary journeyman Clint Eastwood. For those of you who don't know what this is, there was an event in Paris where these terrorists tried to take over a train, but there were soldiers in the United States military, and they were able to stop the terrorists before they did any real damage. Props to the real guys. The real guys are in the movie. Props to them. They're heroes. I love the army. The fact that people are willing to sacrifice their lives to protect me so I could do these dumb videos, that means a lot to me. But these people are not actors. This is why we have actors, Clint Eastwood. A soldier's job is to protect the country so that actors can play them in movies. You don't get soldiers to play themselves in movies. Ready Player One? Oh, you remember this video game? Remember this movie from the 80s? We're not gonna do anything new with it. You know, if you're gonna make a movie set in this VR futuristic world, it should be very colorful and vibrant and creative. And there's nothing about this movie that is any of those things. The rules within the world make no sense. Movie's full of cliches. And I guess he uses the excuse of, oh, it's like an homage to the 80s, so therefore all these characters can be cliche. And Olivia Cooke is in this movie, who's gorgeous. And then she shows up and she's like, oh, I'm ugly. You don't look at me. And it's the same beautiful woman, except she has like a little red paint. Yeah, Spielberg? I'll talk about this one in a few months. 12 Strong, this movie's like military propaganda. Chris Hemsworth shows up on a horse and shoots at terrorists, and all the characters are whatever. Michael Shannon's in this movie, and he literally does nothing. Yeah, what this movie really needed, because I don't mind a military propaganda movie, as long as the action is awesome. And the action is pretty boring. The new Halloween, I respect the fact that people actually tried making this movie. You can tell, unlike Insidious, they were actually trying to be scary. The director was trying some cool things. The cinematography was pretty good most of the time. The soundtrack is pretty great. But the issue is, and the issue I always have with these damn horror remakes, is you're never gonna make a movie as good as Halloween. And it's like, and it's a lot of, I've been there, I've done that. I know who Mike Myers is. He's not scary anymore. Jamie Lee Curtis has this like Home Alone house, that Mike Myers walks in and he constantly gets beat up, and you're like, wow, Michael Myers really isn't that scary anymore when Jamie Lee Curtis, a comedy actress, and a little girl are able to fight him off. There is not a bone in this film's body that is scary. I was never scared once. Like, you look at that old Halloween movie, and John Carpenter's staple is on it, and he builds this sense of dread really well. And even the Rob Zombie movie, that movie is so Rob Zombie, and it has its own style, and I actually thought it was interesting at times how he was able to explore Michael Myers as a child and how he became this like psychopath. And this movie really didn't try to do anything different or original. It was okay, I could tell you guys cared a little. And why'd you call it Halloween? So couldn't you call it Halloween, like just put some dumb title on the bottom, Halloween The Last Key. There you go. Rampage, it looked like a movie. You know Tropic Thunder, they had all those fake trailers at the beginning? It looked like one of those. It looked like a fake movie. And Dwayne Johnson is like a zoologist. This giant Samoan man is supposed to be a zoologist. And Dwayne Johnson does the sign language with the gorilla in it. And he's like, yo, George. It's me, George. It's me, George. Yo, George.
George, no save Davis.
If you want to see Dwayne Johnson with the giant gorilla fighting a bunch of other giant monsters, I mean, you could do worse. At least this movie was entertaining and so bad at times that it was funny. And I really enjoyed Dwayne Johnson's terrible, George, it's me, George, it's me, George. Black Panther, talked about this already. Venom, hilariously bad. I liked Tom Hardy in it though, and I liked his interactions with Venom, who of course is an outcast on his home planet. I loved the Eminem song. Could have been way worse, first of all. I went into the theater expecting like a nightmare. I was walking in like it was a funeral. And the thing is, I was entertained by either how genuinely good Tom Hardy was, or by how just hilariously bad it was. Searching? Damn. People told me this movie was like one of the best of the year. It did the unfriended concept really well, of like being on a laptop. And listen, I actually like the concept of having a movie take place on a laptop. There's this great movie, Internet Story, which is on YouTube. There's also this one called Noah, where it takes place on a laptop too. Those are great. I like John Cho in it a lot, but the plot itself, I was one step ahead of it the entire time. It was so predictable, except for the end, which is so stupid. The rest of the performances, aside from John Cho, from the kids to, oh my god, Detective Vic, she was like the worst actress I've ever seen.
It means that we can't have someone this close to the case helping investigate it. It's my fault for getting you involved in the first place.
Really bad acting, lots of bad dialogue, dumb story, and I really didn't like the music. The music was really bad. Hold the Dark. This is from the director of Blue Ruin and Green Room. And I'm starting to get sick of his dreary, bleak style. It's pretty dull. I kept asking myself, why is that character doing that? And unless you want to see a cool shootout, there's really no reason to watch it. Hot Summer Nights. I was really looking forward to this movie because I just love the premise of it, like a bunch of drug dealers selling pot and they get into a bunch of trouble and whatever. But the movie really didn't have its own vision. It was basically a copy of Martin Scorsese movies. It even used a lot of the same tracks from his movies. All of the characters are cliche as hell. Most of the acting's pretty bad, especially Timothée Chalamet, who's just like, I'm a stoner, I like the guy who played his best friend in the movie. He was a good actor. His character wasn't all that good, but I like that actor. And Maika Monroe, who I really like usually, wasn't very good in it either. Didn't really know what it wanted to be, if it was a crime movie, or a love story, or an homage to the 80s. I guess it was trying to be all of that, and it ended up doing none of those things. American Animals. So this movie is directed by a man named Bart Layton. He directed a movie called The Imposter, which is excellent. And The Imposter uses a similar framing device as this film, where you have characters basically giving interviews explaining what happened. Except in that movie, it actually worked into the plot really well, and it led to a great twist. And here, having the real-life people explain the story while actors are acting it out ruined the movie for me. I could never get into the characters because I kept being reminded that it was a movie. and I liked a lot of the actors in it, and I thought it was a pretty interesting story. But that framing device really kind of killed it for me. Incredibles 2, I talk about this on Sardonicast. I remember Brad Bird said he wouldn't make an Incredibles 2 unless he had a really good idea, and this was your good idea? My guess is Disney paid him a lot of money. Solo, a Star Wars story. It felt like a Star Wars movie, cough cough Rian Johnson, and there's some parts I liked. If you just forget that the main character's supposed to be Han Solo, it's a pretty good movie.
Like me. Well, guess what? I did.
Movie ain't perfect. It's full of some scenes that were really just stupid and bad experimental editing where he'd just play the same clip over and over. I was like, I don't know about that. But there's no denying this movie has lots of style, and for every bad moment there was a really fucking awesome moment. The set design is pretty great. I like the lead actress in it. I like a lot of the lighting, which is like really just saturated and colorful. Overall, it's a really unique vision, and I enjoyed it a lot. Widows, it was a pretty good crime movie. I don't understand why everyone thinks this movie's great. The last 20 minutes are stupid as hell, and nothing led to anything, and like all of these women are supposed to be getting away with this crime, meanwhile they like left DNA evidence everywhere. Unsane, whole movie shot on an iPhone if you don't know, and a lot of it looks pretty cool. The fact that it's shot on an iPhone means Soderbergh was able to get the camera in places you wouldn't normally get to put the camera. The world felt very authentic. I don't know if I found the story as interesting once it became like a stalker story. And God, those scenes that were in the forest where he just color corrected it blue, those were really bad. Bohemian Rhapsody, it was fine. My boy Rami was good though. The Night Comes for Us, a lot of the same actors from The Raid are in it, so I watched it. It's a pretty badass action movie. Don't go into this expecting a great story, but my God, the action scenes are pretty fantastic. Mom and Dad, I talk about this in Nick Cage-a-thon. Avengers Infinity War, I talked about it already. Hostels, pretty good Western. Christian Bale and Rosamund Pike are great. Black Klansman, directed by Spike Lee. The technical aspects were a bit wonky. There's a lot of shots that are out of focus. But this is a very entertaining movie, talks about a lot of issues, draws a lot of parallels with the political climate back then versus now, and is filled to the brim with wonderful performances and great scenes. Thoroughbreds, two white girls being bored and becoming ruthless psychopaths, I really enjoyed it. Mission Impossible Fallout, listen, the script ain't great, dialogue ain't great, but you're not there for that, you're there to see some badass action. Mandy, Nicolas Cage is great. The movie looked gorgeous. I'm going to talk about this in a future Nick Cage-a-thon. Deadpool 2, I think it was better than the first Deadpool. Pretty funny. Lots of great visual gags and references and breaking the fourth wall and all that. Isle of Dogs I talked about already. Overall, I really liked the movie. 8th Grade, it was an authentic portrayal of a girl going through a very hard stage in her life, and I enjoyed it a lot. The lead girl was great, a lot of the acting was great. Everything felt real, and overall it was a really funny movie. A Star is Born, Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper were great. They really had chemistry and felt like a real couple. I love the depiction of alcoholism in it. I wish the music had been better, because I didn't really enjoy it all that much. Leave No Trace, this movie could have been really stupid and cheesy if handled by a different director, but it was pretty good. Ben Foster was great, Thomasin McKenzie was great, not a lot to say about it, it's just a pretty good movie. Cold War, if anything, this movie is way too short. The movie's only 88 minutes long, and by the end of it, I don't think the movie had the emotional punch it wanted to, but the performances are pretty great, movie looks gorgeous, I love the black and white, I love the 4:3 aspect ratio. Is it 4:3? Probably, I don't know. It might be 1:1, who knows. Upgrade, lots of great action, really cool sci-fi premise that I liked a lot, and it actually had a twist I wasn't really expecting, so I gotta give it props for that. First Man, a lot of it was out of focus and just shaky, and the zooms were silly. I kind of found myself dozing off around the last third of the movie, but a lot of the flight sequences were pretty great. The sound design was excellent. I saw the movie in IMAX, so I just really got to appreciate all of the sound design. So let's talk about TV series first, or I guess a streaming services series. Better Call Saul was excellent this year. Such fantastic visual storytelling. The slow pace is perfect. Homecoming was really good too, from Sam Esmail. The story itself wasn't anything all that stellar, but the execution is really what made it. The show's got a lot of style. I love the use of music in it. Sam Esmail's a very postmodern director. He's done things that have been done a million times, but does them in his own way, and makes them feel very fresh and interesting. The House of Cards this year was awful. Claire was like a totally different character. The monologues she had were awful.
Pain is pain. Francis, I'm done with you. There. No more pain.
Man, how the mighty have fallen. House of Cards used to be one of the best shows ever, and now it sucks. I'm just doing this from memory. I didn't write any of these shows down. Oh, Ozark. Ozark was pretty good. I watched season 1 and 2 of Ozark, and I liked those a lot. The pilot is the best episode by far, but the rest of season 1 was really blue. I don't know why. I didn't really like the color correction on it all that much, but season 2 definitely improved that. It's still blue, and it still has like this really harsh contrast look that they wanted, but it looked a lot better. Besides Jason Bateman, who's great, you got the woman who played Wendy and the woman who plays Ruth. Those two characters are fantastic. You know, I'm trying to get into video games the same way I do movies and television, although I have a huge learning curve because I know nothing about the making of video games or the process of making a video game. Red Dead 2 was awesome.
Hi there.
I cannot get enough of Rockstar. They make the best video games ever. The best video games for me are the ones where you just let me loose in a world and I fuck around. Oh my god, I got in so many amazing adventures in this game.
Thank you for keeping the peace. We need more like you.
There's this game, Kingdom Come Deliverance. I loved the shit out of this game. I have like 60 hours in it. Basically, the point of this game, you're in medieval times, you're just a guy, and it's hard as shit. In other games, you just fight with the sword. In this game, you get the sword, and you're fighting the bad guy at first, and you suck. You have to go to a military guy, and he has to teach you how to use the sword, and you have to train with the sword, and then you have to fight like lesser goons with the sword, and just get better and better at it progressively. You'll learn new tricks from that guy, but then your sword will get kind of worn down, same thing with your armor, so you have to go to a blacksmith and he'll repair your armor and he'll fix your sword, and then you also have to clean your clothes, and you have to bathe, and you have to sleep, and you have to eat, and you have to do all these things. It's like fucking real life. The game is so hard, and it's such a pain in the ass. Because in other games, you could take on 10 guys, no problem. In this game, if you see 2 guys, you're like, oh fuck, I don't know if I could take them. Maybe I should just run away. I loved the learning curve in this game. I loved overcoming challenges. And once I got to that level where I'm this badass knight in this badass armor with a huge fucking sword, and you're like unstoppable. I was going through just tens of guys like, fuck you, fuck you. There's nothing more gratifying than overcoming that challenge. Nothing. And I love that game. Battlefield 5, it's Battlefield in World War II. That's it. If you want it, get it. That's it. Hitman 2, I love just being like a stealthy assassin. I 5-starred all of the missions, you know, silent assassin and all that. Go into the mission, plan thoroughly. Go undercover. And then I silently carry out my mission without anyone noticing.
Oh fuck! Hands high, elbows low, move your head!
Yeah, I'm really great at that game. I'm really, really stealthy.
Both targets down. Impressive work, Curtis.
Black Ops 4? This game didn't even have a single player, which is hilarious. I know, I'm a normie with video games, okay? It's not like movies where I watch all these like foreign movies and artsy movies. Video games, I have like the worst taste. But listen, it's Black Ops. The Battle Royale mode is fine, I guess. I don't play Fortnite, I could give a shit. Multiplayer's okay, the only multiplayer mode I play is like gun game. I love that. And just Call of Duty Zombies, that's really what I play, is the Zombies mode. I love the Zombies mode, and the maps in this were great. I love the Titanic one. I love the Gladiator map. God of War was great. People are talking about it as if the writing is on the level of a movie, and not quite. It's a little corny, a little ham-handed. The sun was very annoying for almost no reason at times. But overall, the acting was pretty solid from everybody. I enjoyed, because I've played a lot of the God of War games, and Kratos in that is like a goofy, you know, I always just kill everybody, I want to kill all the gods, I'm always yelling. And they did a good job of making him an actual character. He was interesting and he had an arc, and the guy who was playing him was great. Combat was fantastic, the graphics were great, I really enjoyed exploring the world. Spider-Man, I just love swinging around the city with my webs, I love kicking criminals. Far Cry 5, it was fine, I guess, for a Ubisoft game especially. I didn't beat the whole thing, there's just too much to do. And I have other stuff to do. A Way Out, I played this with my brother. This game is hilarious. Like, the writing and the game itself is bad, but we had so much fun playing it. Leo and Vincent are just goofy characters. I called mine, God, we came up with our own names for the two characters. I think my brother was Tony Two Times, and I was Mickey the Wop. So we would just ignore their dialogue, and I'd be like, yo, Mickey the Wop, what's going on here? Hey, Tony Two Times, what's going on? If you have another person to play it with, you should play A Way Out, because it's definitely made for that. I can't imagine playing it by myself, because I'd probably be bored as hell. Super Mario Odyssey, this game was great. My friend had a Nintendo Switch, so I played this. And you know, I haven't played a Nintendo game in like 10 years, but it was fun. I was actually big into Smash when I was younger. By this point, I suck at it, because I haven't played it in 10 years. But I was really good 10 years ago. You know, I grew up on Nintendo with the GameCube and all that. Yeah, a lot of you kids are gonna talk down to me. Yeah, I play Call of Duty. Well, you know what? I was playing fucking GameCube. I'm your elder, kid. Listen to me. What do you play, Fortnite? That's the end of the list. Some video games for you, some movies, some TV shows. That's everything I've seen. I wish I got to see a little more, but some of these movies are literally impossible to see. Maybe I'll include them in next year's list, who knows, we'll see what happens. Who knows if we'll even make it that long, we might get in a nuclear war.
Knock knock the devil in my medal, and I've been head spinning, but medicine screaming, let that is like a salad bowl, Edgar Allan Poe.